The first week of the last quarter of the year, Bitcoin hit an all-time high. So in what way is it a disappointing year? This entire community has very short memory, and whatever happened in the past 5 days dominates the conversation. We've only been 95 days since the peak of the cycle. Okay? So how about, I think that if you actually assess Bitcoin's performance on a rolling 4-year moving average, you see a progression that looks pretty bullish. I think 2026 is going to be a great year for Bitcoin.
Michael Saylor's core argument begins by challenging a widely repeated narrative that Bitcoin had a disappointing year. According to Saylor, this conclusion is not only incorrect, it reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of time, technology adoption, and capital markets. He points out that Bitcoin reached an all-time high in the first week of October, meaning that the supposed disappointment is based entirely on price action over roughly 95 days. In other words, an asset that achieved record valuation just days into the final quarter of the year is now being judged a failure because it did not end the year at that exact peak. For Saylor, this reaction exposes a deeper problem within modern financial discourse: extreme short-termism.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
You know, I don't think it's a disappointing year. The only way in which it's disappointing is the price at the very end of the year. Do you know when the all-time high was?
Would it have been about August?
October 6th.
October 6th, okay.
Early October, first week of October. You know how many days it's been since the all-time high of Bitcoin?
I mean, must be like 100 days or something.
Yeah, Grok thinks like 95 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so, by the way, October. The last quarter of the year is October, November, December. Literally at the first week of the last quarter of the year, Bitcoin hit an all-time high. So in what way is it a disappointing year? This entire community has very short memory, and whatever happened in the past 5 days dominates the conversation. But if I look at 2025, I think in 2024, we had 30 to 60 companies that had Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And by the end of 2025, we had like 200. Okay, so the fundamentals look pretty good to me. We hit an all-time high. We added 100 companies with Bitcoin on the balance sheet. I think my company raised something like $25 billion and it all went into Bitcoin. So we bought $25 billion of Bitcoin in 2025. Okay, this entire journey, Danny, started in August of 2020 with a $250 million purchase. Okay, so 10x times 250 is 2.5 billion. We bought 100 times as much Bitcoin in 2025 as we did in August of 2020. And when we bought in August of 2020, that was the greatest amount of capital ever deployed in the Bitcoin network that anybody could remember in the history of the world. So, so 100x more than that strikes me as being a pretty good fundamental progression. You know, if I tick off what happened in 2025, we hit the all-time high. We had 100 Bitcoin companies come online. Fair value accounting for Bitcoin, was instituted at the beginning of the year. It's crippling to the asset class. If you can only lose money, you can never make money. So if we're going to actually institutionalize and commercialize Bitcoin and globalize Bitcoin, if you want everybody on Earth to use Bitcoin and every company on Earth to use Bitcoin, you had to cure some fundamental problems. One, when we bought Bitcoin in 2020, our insurance company dropped us. We got de-insured. A lot of people got debanked. We got, in essence, when the accounting system said it's indefinite intangible, we can't make money, you got deprofitized. you know. And when we rolled into the first week of 2020, what happened? We got our insurance back. For 4 years, I had to underwrite the insurance of the company. The company at one point had 20, 30, 40 billion dollars of assets. We couldn't buy a $40 million insurance policy.
Wow.
Like, strategy wouldn't exist if I had not personally insured the company with my own personal assets. It wouldn't have happened. So we got our insurance back in 2025. We got our profits back in 2025. We went to fair value accounting, and now it's possible for a company to make money. We had the corporate alternative minimum tax question hanging over our head. Is there going to be an unrealized capital gains tax on public companies holding Bitcoin? That was resolved with positive guidance from the administration in 2025. So we didn't have an unrealized capital gains tax hit us. Then we got legitimized as the primary and the greatest global digital commodity in the world by the administration in 2025. That happened at the White House summit and with a television interview that David Sachs gave. And then we hit an all-time high, you know, and if I look at all those things, and by the way, at the beginning of the year, I couldn't get a nickel loan on $1 billion of Bitcoin collateral. A nickel. So we were debanked, there was no credit. And by the end of the year, the majority of the major banks in the United States are extending credit against IBIT, and like a quarter of them had announced plans to start extending credit against BTC. So I would say we start 2026, and by the way, JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley both talking about buying, selling, handling Bitcoin. So now you've got bankers moving with bank acceptance. You got positive guidance from the Treasury Department for crypto assets on a bank balance sheet. You got a pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto head of the CFTC and Mike Selig. You got a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin head of the SEC and Paul Atkins. You got a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin president, cabinet member. You got universal utterance. You also had the commercialization of the Bitcoin derivatives market on the CME. We had all of the handcuffs taken off of IBIT stock options. You also got in-kind create and redemption, where you could swap $1 million of Bitcoin for $1 million of IBIT and vice versa. Swap $1 million of IBIT for $1 million of Bitcoin without a taxable event. So if I had a checklist of all the fundamentals necessary for the asset to be commercialized and globalized and institutionalized, you got everything that you wanted in 2025. You even got an all-time high. You just didn't get an all-time high on the last day of the year. Bitcoin is digital energy. It's digital capital. It's the basis of digital credit. It's the basis of digital money. It's developing very rapidly. We're making great inroads. You know, you're like, well, the 4-year cycle is dead. Well, the irony is the people that are saying that haven't waited 4 years. Like, we've only been 95 days since the peak of the cycle. Okay? So how about, I think that if you actually assess Bitcoin's performance on a rolling 4-year moving average, you see a progression that looks pretty bullish. I think 2026 is going to be a great year for Bitcoin, but I think that you shouldn't be roped into trying to forecast what is the price in 90 days or the price in 180 days. It's kind of like saying, well, 6% of the factories in Detroit have electricity. Well, what percentage of the factories will have electricity in 12 months? Well, you're wrong, and therefore electricity is awful. It's like, Jesus Christ, it took 30 years for people to embrace the most obvious invention in the world.
Yeah.
And the same goes with radio, the same goes with, with television, the same goes with...
Beyond policy and finance, Saylor frames Bitcoin in philosophical terms. He describes it as digital energy, digital capital, and the foundation of digital credit, Bitcoin, in his view, is not merely an asset, it is a new economic substrate. Like electricity, radio, television, or nuclear power, its adoption follows a long nonlinear curve. Early skepticism, misunderstanding, and resistance are not signs of failure. They are features of transformative technologies. He draws a powerful analogy to electricity. It took 30 years for electrification to spread from a small fraction of factories to widespread industrial adoption. Even nuclear power, arguably the most powerful energy invention of the 20th century, spent 50 years in a bear market of public opinion. Against that backdrop, 95 days of Bitcoin price consolidation is irrelevant.
I think that trying to guess where the market goes over a 100-day time frame is a fool's errand. Like I literally just said 95 days ago, we were at an all-time high and you're complaining about Bitcoin price action. Like, we have the attention, of sixth graders. Not even sixth graders.
It's not complaining, it's
Name
more
one
I'm surprised.
thing in your life you accomplished in less than 100 days. Like you can't, you're supposed to you can't have a baby in less than 100 days. You can't get a college degree in less than 100 days. How many companies were started and declared successful in less than 100 days? Was what Bitcoin did made successful in 94 days,
Absolutely
right?
not.
I mean, if you actually did a test on every single human endeavor for the last 100,000 years, and you said, well, I'm going to cancel them all if they weren't successful on the 93rd day. First of all, nothing and none of us would be here, right? So I think it's a mistake to fixate on short frequency events. The whole message of Bitcoin is you're supposed to have a low time preference. So I think that if you're an investor, if you're buying a company, if you're investing in a company, expecting it to be successful in less than 4 years just marks you as naive. Like, name a venture capitalist that would say that if the company that I invested in isn't a screaming success in less than 4 years, that I'm just going to sell my investment.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So if you're an investor, you need a 4-year time frame. But if you're a progressive, if you're an ideologue, okay, so you got up and you decided that you wanted to change the world by spreading an ideology, you probably need a 10-year time frame. So if we go back and ask, well, how long did it take Gandhi to get where he wanted? I mean, look at the history of every ideological movement, for the last 10,000 years. Normally, people that are deemed to be committed to something have a 10-year time frame. And if you did something by the way, the world's full of people that spent 10 years working on something and they still weren't successful, and it took them another 10 or 20 years. But I think that if your goal is to see Bitcoin commercialized, you really shouldn't be analyzing, or you shouldn't be assessing your success with a frequency of 10 weeks or even 10 months. So I mean, what does it matter what happens in 2026 with the price, right? Do you know, take electricity. You know how long it took to go from 4% of factories running on electricity to 75%
No idea.
of factories? 30 years. Okay, so if you're an electricity maxi and you think that, by the way, electricity is probably the single greatest development of our lifetime. Take away electricity, all the cities die, Florida becomes uninhabitable, hospitals don't work, refrigeration doesn't work, half the planet dies. And so I give you the gift of clean, invisible, efficient energy that revolutionizes the world. And it still takes 30 years before 70% of the people agree with you. Okay, so I think the greatest and most amazing thing of our lifetime, Danny, is probably the most profound technology invention of the 20th century was nuclear power. Like, here's a reactor, it generates a gigawatt of energy, and it does it without any obvious emissions. It's like unlimited clean energy. And that was a gift to humanity. And in 1973, we turned it all off. Like in 1973, the United States decided that they were afraid of nuclear power.
Which is totally insane. It's one of the safest as well.
Well, we can't really trace a death in the United States to nuclear power, but we can trace hundreds of thousands of deaths a year to coal or to fossil fuels or to pollution. And the same people that turned off nuclear power, they embraced wood-burning stoves and coal and every type of fossil fuel, and they embraced wars in the Middle East, and they embraced, every alternative, everything imaginable, rather than turn on unlimited free clean energy because a successful marketing campaign convinced them that it was scary and dangerous. We literally saw millions, if not tens of millions of people die in wars fighting over alternatives to nuclear energy, and we saw tens of millions of people die of pollution from alternatives to nuclear energy. And then the population of Germany turns off all their, nuclear power plants.
I think The Simpsons scared everyone.
Yeah, and so I think you have to reason from first principles, and I guess my message is people all of a sudden discovered that nuclear power plants aren't a bad idea when they needed unlimited electricity for AI.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it just flipped after 50 years of skepticism. We flipped to, nuclear's cool again. Because when Apple and Google and Meta and Facebook and Amazon needed nuclear and OpenAI needed nuclear, like, okay, I guess we like it now. It literally was like overnight. If you were to trace that debate, we went from 50 years of skepticism and cynicism to massive enthusiasm because people realized that they needed electricity and they needed a lot of electricity. And so if humanity can fight through 50 years of nuclear skepticism to come out of that, then I think that 94 days of Bitcoin skepticism is not something that we ought to be that skeptical about. I mean, the bottom line is after 10 years of not doing nuclear, right? The nuclear power plant had the nuclear winter, right? The nuclear bear market went from 1973 to 2023. It's 50 years. That was the bear market.
Saylor's most pointed critique is aimed at investors who expect success on a sub-4-year timeline. He argues that such expectations are fundamentally naive. No venture capitalist evaluates success in 100 days. No ideology reshapes the world in 10 weeks. Bitcoin explicitly rewards low-time preference, yet many participants behave as if it were a lottery ticket. Bitcoin's message, according to Saylor, is patience. Investors should think in 4-year cycles. Builders and ideologues should think in 10-year horizons. Anything shorter is noise. Saylor is optimistic about 2026, but he deliberately avoids short-term price predictions. Forecasting the price in 90 or 100 days, he argues, is a fool's errand. What matters is trajectory, not timing. On a rolling 4-year basis, Bitcoin's performance remains strongly positive. Infrastructure is improving, adoption is accelerating, institutional barriers are falling.